So, for the last few months, I've been investing quite a bit of time into some of the recent big live service experiences. More specifically, I've been playing games like Red Dead Online, Anthem, Black Ops 4, Battlefield 5, and Fallout 76, slowly going insane. No, but seriously, the reason why I've been playing these games is to better understand what each experience is evolving into. With Black Ops 4, it's turned into a greedy disaster, what a surprise. With Fallout 76 and Red Dead Online, there very well could be a bright future ahead. I feel it's important when criticizing or discussing games as a service that I am somewhat keeping up with those experiences post-controversy. Now, as you can see in the background, I have finally returned to Battlefront 2, a game that never reached its full potential because of EA's greed at launch. I am still very thankful it backfired on them, but what's unfortunate about Battlefront 2 is that it's not a bad gameplay experience, arguably one of the best active shooter experiences out there right now. And major props to DICE, the developer, because it has only improved with time. What Star Wars Battlefront 2 has proven to me is that an anti-consumer business model can ruin an experience for everybody, no matter the quality of the actual game. There are many who will never return or give any of these live service experiences I just mentioned a second chance because of the rocky launches each suffered. First impressions matter, and this AAA industry is the worst at releasing these types of games. Just look at Middle-earth: Shadow of War, a single-player game that pulled a bunch of nonsense in months after launch. When all interest was lost, the developer finally removed the horrendous loot box system, admitting it was a mistake, but at that point it was too late. Electronic Arts is a game publisher that has pulled nonsense for years, and made a lot of money from unsustainable greed, and for the last few years, starting with really Star Wars Battlefront 2, they have been enjoying the consequences of those actions, and today we take a look at EA's latest decline and what it could mean moving forward. But if you have not already, do consider subscribing for all the latest gaming news and turn notifications on so you don't miss out on any new content. Nonetheless, Electronic Arts is a publisher that does not learn from their mistakes, and you could make an argument that they truly cannot learn from their mistakes because nothing is more profitable than using predatory, manipulative, slimy microtransactions like loot boxes to satisfy investors. Recently, it was revealed that EA's executives would not be accepting their performance bonuses, and my goodness, isn't that quite generous? Well, at least IGN and many other gaming outlets would make you believe that. But I also wonder why they even deserve a bonus for all the BS they continue to pull, and let's be honest, outside of FIFA, there's been a lot of failures across the board and mistakes made. But either way, instead reportedly EA's executives are putting this money in a separate pool for employees, consisting of just under $5 million. Electronic Arts, in a report to the SEC, had this to say in regards to giving up the bonuses. While we are disappointed with our fiscal 2019 results, we understand the challenges we face, and we will continue to focus on how we can apply the strengths of our company to capitalize on our opportunities. Now, I noticed some publications or outlets, like I just mentioned before, applauding this decision, but I have to ask, was this out of real generosity or what I think's more likely a good PR move? I say that because EA CEO Andrew Wilson made $35.7 million in fiscal year 2018. EA CFO Blake Jorgensen made $19.2 million in fiscal year 2018. EA CTO or Chief Technology Officer Kenneth Moss made $14.5 million. EA's Chief Marketing Officer Chris Bruzzo made $5.7 million, and EA's Chief Studio Officer Laura Meal made $6.9 million in fiscal year 2019. And now former Chief Design Officer Patrick Soderlund made an outrageous $48.3 million in fiscal year 2018. My point is, these EA executives aren't hurting at all, and you have to wonder how the 350 plus employees who were laid off earlier in the year feel about this generosity now. I certainly have to believe if these executives actually cared, they could have saved those jobs. Just look at Nintendo a few years ago. With things not going very well at the time, CEO Satoru Iwata refused to lay off staff and cut his salary in half. Other executives also took 20 to 30% pay cuts. More recently, unlike other developers in this industry, Nintendo chose to delay Animal Crossing to ensure their employees have a good work-life balance. This decision cost them $1 billion in stock market value, but it's clear they actually care about their employees and don't want them crunching. That's what I call real generosity, unlike Electronic Arts, who has a reputation of, killing game studios. scenarios. Currently though, Electronic Arts is struggling. That's kind of been the theme of 2019 for them, but since July 2nd, EA's stock has slumped by just over 10%, which in stock market value means they have lost more than $3.6 billion. Now, all the way back in February when Apex Legends Surprise released, I made a video pointing out that EA was saved by that game's success. They have not had a hit in a long time outside of their sports games, and Respawn Entertainment delivered. In past months, it was revealed both of EA's recent $60 games DICE's Battlefield 5 and BioWare's Anthem underperformed. So Apex Legends' massive success was something the investing world was ecstatic about, and many thought that Apex Legends could eventually challenge Fortnite for the top Battle Royale experience, but that's not what has happened. The interest in Apex Legends has drastically been dropping, cooling off since release, and following the Season 2 launch, many investors were disappointed by the lack of interest coming via Twitch viewership. Apex Legends still is one of the most played games, but being that it is free to play and relies on microtransaction sales, its best days may be behind. And many analysts had, in my opinion, unrealistic expectations that Apex Legends would boost up in interest like Fortnite has with its updates. As Bloomberg reported last Friday, a lot of people were expecting this season to kind of blow them out of the water. Nick Lacoris, an investment advisor covering video games at Gerber Kawasaki Inc. said, "I was not too impressed, and EA really needs Apex Legends to be cross-platform in order to take it to the next level. That was one great thing that Fortnite did." Apex Legends is finally cooling off, and I personally find it as one of the better live service Battle Royale experiences on the market, at least coming from Electronic Arts. Still not a fan of loot boxes in any paid capacity, cosmetic or not, but what Respawn Entertainment provided EA back in February was a short-term boost, and we're now seeing expectations coming back to reality, which is that outside of EA sports games, they are struggling. BioWare's Anthem is practically dead, and while I fully expect some massive updates this month, including the Grand Cataclysm, which might I add has been improving, well at the very least the weather effects have improved, and that's based on some of the footage coming from I believe the test server, but at this point with Anthem's inevitable big content push, you could make an argument that it's too little too late. BioWare's decision to go dark has been an interesting one that we'll find out soon if it was smart, but right now there's been little to no communication for the last 2 months, with the major content in the game's first roadmap still delayed with no timetable of release. And the majority of players have moved on. EA has said they are committed to BioWare and Anthem, but as I've said recently, if that new content does not get the interest that Electronic Arts wants, I definitely think resources and developers will be pulled and moved to Dragon Age 4, the next BioWare experience. Anthem at this point is not selling many new copies, viewership is gone on Twitch, the player size is plummeted, and the microtransaction store is lackluster. With the next content push, I can almost guarantee the microtransaction store will be revamped because Anthem currently is not making much from microtransactions and already underperformed sales-wise. Another game that's had its struggles is Battlefield 5, which right now developer DICE has been facing criticism from their community who are unhappy about all the technical issues and bugs that still face the game. Like with many of these live service experiences, DICE has been criticized for how unfinished Battlefield 5 feels, with thus far a lack of enjoyable post-launch content, while game modes continue to be removed. Players have also been unhappy with how much attention microtransactions have received. Like certain microtransaction related issues have been resolved fast, while the more glaring issues related to the actual gameplay seem to be still unresolved 8+ months after launch, which honestly I think is unacceptable. When you have numerous players referring to Battlefield 5 and Anthem as scams, you know there is a problem. And it's not like this is new, as previous EA titles like Battlefront, Mass Effect Andromeda, and Battlefront 2 have faced similar criticism. All of this has and continues to contribute to EA's struggles, and their answer to these struggles is just adding more and more microtransaction opportunities to really everything. Matt Bilby, Executive Vice President of Strategic Growth at EA, recently told GamesIndustry.biz, "25 years at EA and I still struggle with the external perception that we're just a bunch of bad guys. We love making and playing games. Unfortunately, when we make mistakes on games, the world knows about it because it's of a size and a scale." See, Electronic Arts has some of gaming's best talent and does some amazing things with their EA Originals publishing program that has produced some great smaller games like a way out. But let's not beat around the bush. Just because EA does some good doesn't excuse all the bad they do. We could sit here for hours going through lists of all the anti-consumer greedy nonsense that they pulled for the last 2 decades. EA has earned its reputation as arguably gaming's greediest and most manipulative publisher that chooses to ignore the damage that they are inflicting with features like loot boxes and pay-to-win mechanics. Just days ago, the gaming subreddit exploded in anger when a post highlighted just how greedy and predatory EA has gotten with its mobile titles. In NBA Live, they were selling a 106 overall Zion Williamson card for $100, not including taxes, and other virtual cards for RJ Barrett and Ja Morant were the same price as a full-price AAA experience. What's even worse is that this is all temporary. With the next NBA season coming about in a few months, all of this progress will be lost when things get annually rebooted. This is the definition of predatory monetization that makes EA the bad guys. Everyone watching this video probably thinks who's crazy enough to buy something like that, and the answer is those addicted to the game. If something at the time considered absurd like Horse Armor DLC could be such a massive success for Bethesda, just imagine how appealing and profitable pay-to-win microtransactions can be. EA blatantly preys on these vulnerable players' gambling-like addiction, and unfortunately because of this greed for years, this is the nonsense they continue to get away with. As evidenced by the comment section to this NBA Live Reddit post, and even from my own experience, this is not just NBA 2K which has this horrendous business model. Every EA developed mobile game from FIFA to Madden to Star Wars Galaxy Heroes to Command & Conquer Rivals, they all do this crap, and in some cases it's even more egregious. This is the mobile gaming industry and why I cannot respect it at all. As recently pointed out by Jim Sterling, you have mobile game developers like this guy, presenting ways to exploit audiences and very early on saying the following.
The tricks on how to monetize a game well. Some of you will probably be slightly shocked by all the tricks I have listed here, but I'll leave the morality of it out of the talk. We can discuss it if we have time later.
I just want to put an emphasis on this, but that remark came at the beginning of the presentation on how to exploit people into paying for microtransactions, and you better understand a majority of this industry doesn't care to even discuss the morality of their actions, because they don't care. Also, this notion that whales are super wealthy Wall Street traders is absurd. Most of the time it's some normal guy or kid using an average middle-class salary getting manipulated into spending money they cannot afford to spend. That's the horror this industry fails to and doesn't want to acknowledge, which, being that we're talking specifically about Electronic Arts in this video, it's evidenced by their own actions that they don't care about consumers and the damage that they are inflicting. So, Electronic Arts is financially struggling, losing billions in market value, with their stock continuing to fall today. This is a gaming company that is desperately fighting the anti-loot box and pay-to-win legislation proposed in the United States Senate, because if that bill passes, that EA stock along with many other publishers will tank. These companies, the leaders of this industry, rely on manipulation, and monetization in mobile and AAA games will only continue to get worse because these companies don't care about consumers. They care about investors. There's some analysts saying the answer to EA's problems is increasing mobile revenue. The thing is, it will never be good enough because investors always want to see growth, and EA shot up to the top of this industry through greed, and the only way they continue to grow is through greed. But with more studies linking their monetization money-making surprise mechanic features to gambling and growing public scrutiny over microtransactions and rushed unfinished live service experiences, EA is most definitely in trouble long term, and as a consumer I can only sit back and say, what did you expect to happen? This was an inevitable outcome. Electronic Arts owns and has developed some of the greatest video games ever, but in this current day it's run by a bunch of soulless executives who wish to find any way possible to shove more live services and microtransactions down consumers' throats. Honestly, maybe that's how the company's always been since Trip Hawkins left years ago. But Electronic Arts, if they had their way, those $100 pay-to-win microtransactions and their NBA Live mobile game would be in their console games as well. That was the plan with Star Wars Battlefront 2, and it backfired. having an effect that EA and this whole gaming industry never wanted to confront: real consequences for predatory greed in the form of government scrutiny and potential legislation. Anyway, as it stands, EA's answer to its latest financial issues probably will be to continue increasing microtransactions in all of their games. And with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order only months away, maybe their stock does recover, but as I've said throughout this video, their current business model isn't a long-term solution, it's a long-term problem that could come crumbling down if the United States government passes the anti-loot box bill. So what do you make of the latest problems facing Electronic Arts and their belief that they are not the bad guys? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.